All right, 26 past the hour. Now to the major revelations from the House Intel Committee's impeachment report. Phone logs are connecting key players in the investigation. Rudy Giuliani, his indicted associate Lev Parnas, and Republican Congressman Devin Nunes, whose name was mentioned 49 times in the Intel report. Isn't he the one asking questions about it? It seems a little weird.
He's the one leading questions.
He's leading the questions
top
on the
Republican.
What? That doesn't make any sense. Seems like a conflict. Anyhow, also under scrutiny, Giuliani's contacts with White House Office of Management and Budget, and a game of phone tag on April 9th between Giuliani and a mysterious number from the White House. That call lasted more than 8 minutes. As the New York Times reports, House investigators suspect that the number may belong to President Trump, in part because of evidence from the Roger Stone trial, which showed Stone, who had direct access to the president, also received a call from the same mysterious number. The call records show that around that time, Giuliani, Nunes, and Parnas were in frequent contact with John Solomon, then a columnist for The Hill, who published a series of opinion pieces criticizing then U.S. Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. The days after one particular article published on April 7th, phone records show several calls between Giuliani, Parnas, Nunes, and Solomon, including April 10th, when Giuliani and Nunes talked on 3 short calls in quick succession, followed by a text message, and ending with a nearly 3-minute call. Phone records also show that on April 24th, the day that Yovanovitch was recalled to Washington, Giuliani spoke at least 8 times with a White House phone number. Giuliani has previously acknowledged pressing Trump to remove the ambassador from her post. Here's what Ranking Member Nunes said late last night about those call logs.
Maybe they have the recordings of my phone calls with Rudy Giuliani. They're welcome to play them, because everything I spoke with Rudy Giuliani about is nothing that I wouldn't care if the American people found out.
Did you ever talk to this guy, Les Parnas, or whoever his name is?
You know, it's possible, but I haven't gone through all my phone records. I don't really recall that name. You know, I remember the name now because he's been indicted. I'll go back and check all my records, but it seems very unlikely that I would be taking calls from random people.
Well, but that's the thing, Mika. He's not a random person.
No.
He's in the middle of this drug deal, according to what John Bolton called it, in the middle of this drug deal. So he's talking to a guy who's indicted and claiming he doesn't remember that. Please.
A lawyer for Lev Parnas tells the Wall Street Journal that Nunes and his client were focused on investigations into corruption in Ukraine. That's like becoming
That's funny.
A key line that means something else. Adding, quote, they weren't talking about where to find sushi in Kyiv. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't get this though, Mika. Why? Think about the timing.
Yeah.
They claim they're interested in corruption in Ukraine. Donald Trump's never talked about corruption in Ukraine. Why would they suddenly become interested in corruption in Ukraine right after the State Department and the DOD said that there was not a significant amount of corruption in Ukraine to concern the Americans, and it was time to transfer the money and the weapons to Ukraine? Well, you start worrying about corruption right after Donald Trump's DOD and Donald Trump's State Department says no problem with corruption in Ukraine.
Yeah, I get the feeling corruption in Ukraine means dirt on political rival. Heidi, you have reporting looking into this, and what's coming up? What are you looking at?
All right, Mika. So Schiff says that he's kicking this over the Judiciary Committee, but people I talked to on the Judiciary Committee have been thinking about how these articles could be shaped for quite a while, because as Nancy Pelosi says, they've had the goods, right? And so my reporting is what the considerations are right now about what these articles might look like. What we do know at this hour is that there is likely to be at least one broad abuse of power article, and encapsulated in that everything from the president using his office for personal gain, leveraging taxpayer dollars, appropriated federal taxpayer dollars to extort a foreign country in order to help himself personally. Secondly, contempt of Congress. And this is where there's serious discussions underway, Mika and Joe, as to whether this only focuses on Ukraine and what the president did, because there's so much there in terms of blocking witnesses. From the very get-go, Pat Cipollone sending a letter on October 2nd saying your investigation, Congress, is constitutionally invalid and none of us are going to cooperate with it, or whether they include some of the Mueller investigation materials. That is a hot debate right now as to whether they're going to go anywhere near Mueller. A lot of the progressives in the conference want to have as much as possible in there. Leadership concerned that the more diffuse they make it, the harder it will be to get support from Republicans, if they're going to get any support.
That's going to be a wild hearing. The Judiciary Committee hearings, Jonathan, are going to be wild. Louis Gohmert's in there, Matt Gaetz, have some Republicans who've been big, loud defenders of the president. But just going back quickly, because it crosses over into your world in the White House, these phone calls with Giuliani. On April the 24th, Rudy Giuliani, a private attorney not working for the government, called the White House 7 times. What else happened on April 24th? Marie Yovanovitch was recalled from Ukraine, brought back to Washington, and fired. Later in August, when they were trying to set up a White House meeting, he was talking with OMB. Rudy Giuliani, as Walter Schaub said, I can think of a lot of bad reasons why he'd be talking to OMB. I can't think of one good reason. Rudy Giuliani, the president's private attorney, calling the White House again and again at these critical moments in the Ukraine story.
Right. The timing obviously causes us to raise eyebrows. And he's the president's personal attorney. He can call the president. Yeah. OMB, there's no jurisdiction there. He's not a government employee. He has nothing to do with that. But what does OMB do? OMB helps talk about funds to Ukraine. Yep. So that is also going to be a subject of investigators' questions going forward. Giuliani, of course, said last night that he denied any sort of wrongdoing. But this is going to be part of the focus going forward. And let's not miss the 30,000-foot look here. That this report says that the President of the United States placed his personal and political interests over the interests of the nation. Yep. And that's what's going to be subject to this hearing today. But you are right. This is going to be a wild scene. The Judiciary Committee is twice the size of the House Intel Committee. These hearings tend to be, featuring this committee, tend to be unruly. As you mentioned, some of the president's most ardent defenders are going to be there. There's been talks and reporting about some scenes. They're going to try to create some staging, so they're going to try to act out, slow things down. I think it will be sort of fascinating to watch. I don't know that necessarily it's going to be the American Republic at its best, but this is it. And we, of course, also have this split screen where that's going to be unfolding today while the president is in London and going to be reacting to it when we see him later on camera.
Joe.
I mean, Tom Nichols, boy, what a party we used to belong to. You've got the Republicans spent all weekend pushing Russian propaganda talking points that the intel community had warned them not to. Trump's intel community, by the way. You've got the top Republican on the Intel Committee in the middle of this so-called, quote, drug deal, calling around indicted Ukrainians who were trying to get things happening behind the scenes as part of, again, just part of this bigger drug deal. And, of course, you've got a Republican leader that's running the House of Representatives, and Kevin McCarthy, who told his caucus before Donald Trump was nominated that he was certain that Donald Trump was being paid off by Vladimir Putin. Now they just line up like the Quislings that they are and do whatever this man asks them to do.
You know, Joe, one of the most important things that comes out of this is to remember that elections matter, that if the Democrats hadn't taken the House in 2018, we wouldn't know any of this. One of the really important outcomes of that was that Adam Schiff ended up cheering intelligence rather than Devin Nunes, and all of this would have been buried. But I think to go back to the Republicans, the most important thing is everybody knows what happened. I mean, this is not a search for the truth. What you're going to everybody. There is no doubt about it. The Republicans are going to go to the mattresses not because they believe Donald Trump is innocent, but because they believe it is a partisan imperative to save Donald Trump from impeachment. It's not like they don't know what happened. Everybody knows exactly what happened. I think Adam Schiff was absolutely right yesterday to say we have more than enough information to send this on to judiciary. We're going to find out more things. Investigations are going to go on, but it's just going to be more rocks on the scale of proving what we already know, which is that the president put his interest above the national interest to pressure an ally into doing his personal bidding. No matter how many ways you try and put that back together, that's what it amounts to.
You know, Mika, Tom really laid it out perfectly. The Republicans are not acting this way, not parroting Russian propaganda because they think Donald Trump is innocent. They're doing it because they know he's guilty.
So then it leads to the question, because the president, keeps pushing back in a way that I think people, especially leaders in Washington, have never seen before, with more lies, with more insults, with more bullying. And Karine Jean-Pierre, I wonder how, I know you're here to talk about Kamala, we'll get to that in just a moment, but how the Democrats handle this. This trial will be going on a month before Iowa, and you've got two sides that are not giving in. Some may say that I obviously, side with the Democrats, but it seems like there's one side with the facts and the other side that will do anything to ignore the facts. And I think this could be actually tough for the candidates to handle, especially if voters are kind of tuned out to all of this.
Yeah, Mika, it's quite mind-blowing what we're seeing. And I just want to add one more thing. We have to remember on October 3rd, Donald Trump walked out on the South Lawn and he was asked by a reporter, what did you want the Ukraine president to do? He said, I wanted him to investigate Biden. He didn't mention Burisma. He didn't mention corruption. And you have a situation now where a Republican Party that used to be about Mr. Gorbachev, please tear down this wall, to now taking KGB, basically, essentially talking points, misinformation, and putting that out there. And I just don't know where the line is.
Yeah.
Where is the line? What is this president above the law or not? I mean, that is just where we are right now. And I think what Democrats need to do is continue doing what they're doing, which is keep going for the facts, keep laying it out for the American public. And that is what is at their constitutional duty, is what's at stake, and that's what they need to be doing.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.